MLPs remain 30% off their highs of 2014. Yields are 8%, historically very attractive. This is a cause of constant frustration to investors. They see profits improving, leverage is coming down, volumes are growing. Everybody knows America's the world's biggest producer of crude oil. Why isn't the sector bouncing? The shale revolution has turned out to be a huge disappointment for investors in pipelines and energy infrastructure companies. It's led to what we call the great betrayal of MLP investors. For many years before the shale revolution, America's pipeline network was the one we needed. We produced and used roughly the same amounts of energy year after year. It didn't require a great deal of new investment. The sector attracted older, wealthy Americans, high net worth investors who liked the high yields and they liked the tax deferral that came with those K1s. But it also meant that lots of other investors who normally buy US equities were ruled out. Tax-exempt institutions, foreign investors, all of these are prevented by tax rules from owning MLPs. And so the result was a very narrow set of investors, US, high net worth, taxable individuals willing to accept K1s. The shale revolution created the need for much more investment in new pipelines. North Dakota was not always a source of crude oil. Pennsylvania was not always a source of natural gas. And companies that historically paid out almost all their cash flow because they didn't need to do anything else with it were faced with a problem. How do you pay for growth when you want to maintain those distributions? They tried increasing leverage. They tried doing bigger secondary offerings. But eventually, distributions were cut because leverage had to come down. And this was the great betrayal of the high net worth investor. These were some of the most long-term investors in the market. Because of the tax deferrals, in many cases, these individuals planned to hold their MLPs and leave them in their wills to their future heirs. But several dozen distribution cuts have really alienated this investor base. MLPs had a choice. They could have decided to maintain the pipeline network that they had and not go for growth, but they chose growth as companies so often do. And dozens of cuts, adverse tax moves, have meant that MLP investors today, even though they see the valuations, don't trust the yields. It's why many big MLPs have converted to be corporations so that they can access the global equity investor, the institutions who buy equities in so many other sectors. The good news is that dividends in the American Energy Independence Index are set to rise 10% per annum this year and next. This is the type of development that we think will bring investors back into the sector. I'm Simon Lack. We invest in energy infrastructure.